And we are live. Welcome, DoorGrow hackers, to the DoorGrow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you're interested in growing your business and life, and you are open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a DoorGrow hacker. DoorGrow hackers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management businesses and their owners. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert, Jason Hull, the founder of Open Potion, Gather Kudos, Thunder Local, and of course, DoorGrow. Now let's get into the show. So today I'm hanging out with Taylor Ho of APM Help. And Taylor, welcome to the DoorGrow Show.
Thanks for having me. I've heard a lot.
Yeah, hopefully all good things. So Taylor, tell me about your background and how you kind of got into being an entrepreneur, and
Sure.
Let's segue that into your business.
Sure. I'll try to keep it as short as possible here, but straight out of college, my first job was at Appfolio. So a lot of people probably know about Appfolio. Probably a third of the industry uses it, but essentially it's property management accounting software. And so I was a client success manager at the time, and this was way back in 2011. So by 2012, we had gone our separate ways, and I actually segued into my first startup. So it's completely unrelated, but essentially it was enterprise video review software. Users going like pretty much everything you've seen recently, Netflix, HBO shows, they all used our software to review and approve it. It was really awesome, but we didn't make any money. So learned a ton, raised capital, did a bunch of awesome stuff. And then 2017, so last year, we had an exit. So we sold the company, and essentially I was like, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And at the time, pretty much the whole time, I'd always been consulting sporadically, like just Appfolio clients. They'd remembered who I was, found me on Facebook, LinkedIn, was like, hey, if we pay you, can you help us? So that's kind of how I got my start into where we are today. Just maintain a book of clients, helps them out whenever I could. And then, when I exited my company, went full time into it because it was kind of like it was no brainer. I had tons of demand, would never had enough time to do so, but now I did. So essentially got myself to the point of just nonstop consulting work and decided this isn't sustainable. I'm going to kill myself. Like, it's just too much work, 80 hours nonstop a week. And finally we realized, like, why is there so much demand? And surprisingly, why do my clients keep coming back to me? Right? If I had already cleaned up your books, why do you keep coming back? And so fundamentally we realized, like, the vast majority of property managers aren't bookkeepers or don't have accounting backgrounds. A lot of times they're realtors or brokers, and you get into it just like you said in your intro, like you're in it to maintain the relationship so you can make sure you get the leasing and the sales of the real estate. And so we had a couple clients interestingly just ask us, hey, well, why don't we just pay you to do the bookkeeping? Like, we'll pay you exactly what we pay our bookkeepers, but you do it as a service. And this sounded very interesting because, again, I come from SaaS, or software as a service, where it's all about recurring revenue. And this sounded very interesting, right? Because, again, if I, in theory, could get them clean and fully, if worst comes to worst, if an auditor were to walk into the room, they'd pass flying colors, then in theory, this should be scalable. And so literally, I mean, we're a little further than a year away now. So again, I kind of decided full-time. We signed our first bookkeeping client July 2017. And as of today, we have a slew of services, and we provide services to over 25,000 units. So it's been a wild ride so far.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So businesses exist because there's a problem to be solved, right? I mean, 100%. Unless they're stealing from people.
Sure.
So there was this problem with Appfolio, and or with property managers not doing accounting. And so can you kind of clarify what is the problem that you guys now solve?
Sure. One of the fundamental ones is bank recs. Interestingly enough, in our industry, the vast majority of states have auditors. It's a regulated industry. So, some schmuck on the road can't just start a property management company. You have to be licensed, you have to be a licensed broker. But again, typically most licensed brokers do sales, right? Some of them in our industry do property management. And again, like with property management, one of the fundamental core things you do is the accounting. And so how the industry kind of regulated that or tried to regulate that is via bank recs. So in any company, you should be doing a bank reconciliation. Fundamentally, that means every single transaction that occurs in your bank account needs to happen in your software, whether it be QuickBooks, Excel, or obviously Appfolio, Property, Propertyware, Buildium, MyResman, Yardi, what have you.
Right.
Okay? And what's even more important is because you're managing other people's money, so you're managing owner money and tenant money, which are both consumers. This is where it becomes very, very important to make sure you're doing bank recs. Right. And then beyond that, there's something called a three-way tie-out where you're accounting for essentially unclear deposits and checks, but we can get into that later. But long story short, bank recs is fundamentally one of the most important things you need to be doing. If you're not doing bank recs, you need to do them.
Got it. Okay. And a lot of property management business owners are not doing bank recs?
Yes. They're either not doing them at all, or if they are doing them, they're doing it to what's called double tied outs. Okay. Which means you're just making sure what comes in and goes out is accounted for. It comes in, it goes out. There's a pivotal three-way tie out, which is again accounting for uncleared checks and deposits. A great example, like layman's terms, is for example, let's say you cut a check. You write a check to appliance vendor. Okay. Sorry, that's my dog. But if you write a check to an appliance vendor, they have that check, but it has left your bank account yet, right? Because they haven't cashed it.
Right.
Well, if they haven't cashed the check, you need to keep that money in your bank account, because if you use it and they cash the check, it's going to bounce.
Sure.
So hence, this is the pivotal three-way tie out. But now you're doing this across hundreds, if not thousands of units, and you have a ton, and the property managers that listen to this will know, you probably have a ton of uncleared checks, and those are all liabilities. You need to have the cash in the bank. But again, if you're only doing a double tie out and you're not accounting for these, this is how you could very easily overdraw your bank account. Now, unfortunately, like in our industry, because like security deposit is a great example, you never really will have a true run on the bank because not all tenants are going to move out at once.
Yeah. And
so due to that, you kind of have this awkward scenario of like, yeah, in theory, there's money in the bank. You can write a security deposit refund for $1,000, but it does not necessarily mean that exact property has the $1,000, right? And that's where, again, like if you were to think there's only one bank account per property, well, it'd be very easy to tell, oh, is there money or not for that property? But with all these softwares these days, they're called property-based accounting because they're supposed to keep track of the property balances for you. So again, layman's terms, the pivotal three-way tie-out, which is kind of like the holy grail of where you want to start, accounts for these unclear transactions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so your team will help them resolve this and handle the bookkeeping so that they are in compliance with and doing a three-way tie-out.
Yes. Now, and just to clarify, the three-way tie-out is just one of the main checks that an auditor will do. But it's kind of like the first thing they look at, because if you're not even three-way tied out, there's no point in looking at anything else because you can't even account for your cash.
Right.
Right. So the first thing we do would be a bank rec catch-up. Right. So again, if they're behind or they've never done one before, our team comes in. We typically take no longer than 30 days. We catch you up, and we've done accounts all the way back to like 2009 before. Now, granted, 2009 we didn't do it in 30 days, but we've done some pretty long, never done bank recs before. And then after that process is done, specifically in Appfolio at least, there's something called the financial diagnostics report, where now that the cash is accounted for, now you can start troubleshooting and truing up where the money should actually be, right? And this is where you're getting into all the nitty gritty of, like, let's say tenants move in, they pay you rent and security deposit in a single check. Well, you need to remember to transfer the money to the security deposit account or your escrow account. If you don't, the money's in the wrong place, right? But a bank rec wouldn't necessarily catch that, because a bank rec is just accounting for cash. It's accounting for cash in and cash out, not necessarily if it's in the right place or not. So again, this is getting into the really nitty gritty of, property-based accounting for property management companies or trust accounting. But again, you can tell, like, this gets complicated really, really quickly, and the vast majority of PMs, like, it's just, I don't want to ever do this. And so hence, we do it for you. And if you want to scale a bookkeeping team, right, or a bookkeeping service, we have that service for you as well.
Now, is it only available to Appfolio accounting clients?
Sure. It's a great question. Today, we're only available for Appfolio, but before the end of this year, we will launch our next software. Now, we're not going to do, so our biggest thing is everyone that we call an expert used to work at that software's company. Okay, so all of our experts, including myself, used to work at Appfolio. We feel like that's the level of expertise you need to truly understand how to do, everything compliance related if you are using that software. So our next one is,
when you're hiring, are you just hanging out on Appfolio's Glassdoor page to kind of see who's falling out?
So yeah, there's a lot of LinkedIn connections. And I mean, obviously, like, we hire a certain crowd or a certain kind of person who is probably not at Appfolio anymore, and so those are the ones that, again, they're interesting. We bring in, and quite frankly, the Appfolio experience for us is the absolute floor with us. The ceiling is nowhere in sight. So regardless, that's kind of where we're starting. We should be live with Propertyware and Buildium, hopefully before the end of this year. Awesome. But we're going to get started with those as it relates to the daily bank recs first, and our audit tool. And so those are kind of like things like kind of a la carte services we can get started with. We won't do full bookkeeping until probably later next year, but initially we'll definitely get started with audits. We do daily audits and daily bank recs.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So you're expanding into those software. And then, so some of this stuff that you do currently, is this a flaw with the software? Is this stuff that software could have built in? And are there software out there that do help them do some of this three-way tie out? Or
Sure. So yes and no, obviously, with anything that's a little complicated, right? Arguably, yes, the software could do this. Is it a flaw in the software? No. So all, like, you'll hear the same qualms for all the property users, all the software users. They all have problems reconciling. Okay. If they don't, it's probably because they're not doing the pivotal three-way. They're just doing the easy two-way. But the vast majority of everyone has problems with it. Now, the software can make it easier, but fundamentally, at the end of the day, because this is related to a broker's license and states require this, like, when they hit reconcile, the reports that are generated, typically for most states, the broker has to sign off on something, fill out a report, and send it off to their regulators. And so that's not something that no software company is going to take on that liability, right? Whereas an accounting firm like us, we will actually take on the liability if we're doing it, right?
Okay, so explain that. How do you help people lower the risk and liability, and you take this on? Because I'm sure you guys are not always perfect, and so there, if something doesn't go right, how is the business owner protected?
Sure. So
and trying to do this with somebody else.
Sure. So the biggest thing with us is exactly the case. We're all human, right? Humans make mistakes, but most humans don't have a gazillion checks and balances in place to make sure or to catch whether or not they actually made a mistake or not. And so we like to follow Google's kind of methodology of eating your own dog food, right? So we actually built an internal audit tool that audited ourselves. So if there were anything we did incorrectly, it would tell us within a business day of, hey, because it's a daily audit. So, hey, something you did was incorrect. Now, what's great about that is every state, they do not require a daily audit. They'll do a monthly audit at best, right?
Okay.
And so obviously, if we're rectifying things within a couple days or within the day that it happens, we're good to go. And so that's essentially our way to make sure and guarantee actually that what we do is 100% above board and will 100% pass an audit. And we've made that tool available, right? So we actually happen to be able to acquire tripletideout.com, and it's now its own product right now specifically for Appfolio users, but it's coming for Propertyware. So if you have Propertyware, we're working with Steve to do this with Propertyware users. But essentially, you now can have a tool that goes into your software, grabs the data that's necessary, and crunches the numbers as it relates to your specific state's compliance requirements. And if there are any issues, it'll tell you in a beautiful little checklist, like a report, here are the specific issues that you have and you need to fix them. And so the top issues typically that we see are obviously security deposits are in the wrong bank account, okay? Tenant liabilities aren't accounted for. And it's related to security deposits, but the other big one is prepayments, okay? So with prepayments, a lot of PMs, like let's say some extremely wealthy individual decides to rent your place and they have horrible credit, but they've got a lot of cash. We have no clue where the cash comes from because we don't have to CYA on these things. But regardless, they say, hey, I'll pay 2 years up front. Okay.
Sure.
Every PM is going to be like, fantastic. Give me the money. Right. I'm just saying. But let's just say you take some kind of prepayment like that. A lot of times, the property manager disperses the money to the owner, or they will use the money for like home improvement or appliances, or they'll use it for something. Well, in theory, from an accounting perspective, you can't actually touch the money until it is earned, until it turns into rent income. And those are things that most states are those are all big red flags, right? The other big one is commingling of owner funds. This happens all the time, unfortunately. We see it, again, all the time. When it's property-based accounting, typically doing distributions and everything based on that one property's balance. Well, the problem is in softwares like Appfolio, if one property that an owner owns is negative $1,000, but the other property is positive $2,000, because it's running its owner distribution calculations on a per property basis, it thinks, okay, the property that has negative $1,000, there's no distribution because it's negative. But the property that's positive $2,000, let's distribute all of it. So now what are you left with? You're left with a net negative $1,000. Yeah. And that's a huge red flag because that negative is being paid for by another owner. And that's commingling of funds. And that happens all the time. Like all the time.
A little dangerous there. Yeah. Okay. So I like the idea of how you said, like, you guys eat your own dog food. And I imagine that, and I think this is a principle that business owners should listen to and take away. We did the same thing. At one point, we were like, hey, we need to do some of the stuff we help clients do. We need to rebrand. We need to change our, how our targeting is, figure out our ideal prospect, and, revamp their business. And I think, this goes to kind of the core of property management business owners. There's some of them have this idea that they need to do everything themselves. And they kind of hold on to doing everything themselves, which is a surefire way to prevent growth and being able to scale and expand their business, because they're trying to do everything or control everything. And ironically, so they're self-managing. They're self-managing all these different tools and different parts of their business. They're self-managing, but they want to go and convince people that they shouldn't be self-managing their properties.
Fair. And to your point, my firm is all about outsourcing your bookkeeping, accounting, compliance, audits to us. Yeah. And again, along the lines of eating our own dog food, we don't do our own bookkeeping because they're corporate books. Right? We're the experts in property-based trust accounting, but we are not the experts, nor do we want to deal with the corporate bookkeeping.
Right.
So we actually outsource it to a great company if anyone is interested, but I don't know if they'll take property management clients, but it's pilot.com. They do our corporate books for us. And again, the reason why I chose them was, one, obviously, like they they do things that any, random CPA, neighborhood CPA or local CPA doesn't necessarily do, right? They do it at scale. So what they can do is, for example, like every 15th of every month on the dot, I get a beautiful monthly P&L balance sheet, and any questions of like, hey, we don't know how to classify these new kinds of transactions or expenses or what have you, right? Or like that $50,000 car you just bought or something. It's like, what is this? So they email us every month and they say, hey, we need you to help, clarify these. We'll reclass them. And they edit our P&Ls and income statements and balance sheets and send it to us. And it happens every month on the dot. And what this enables us to do is, again, I don't have to deal with this, first off, but come year end, they're going to give me my year end financials. And, I don't even have to go to a CPA to do this, but effectively I just go to my CPA and say, hey, file this, because it's already done. I didn't have to deal with it. And that's essentially what we're trying to do for your trust accounting, for your trust books when it comes to managing other people's money.
Yeah, got it. I mean, same thing, we outsource, and I use, I have a lady that's very entrepreneurial. She's a profit first coach, and she's an accountant, and she does our bookkeeping, and she tells us when we get money in where we should disperse it into which accounts. And so I just trust her because it works. And it makes me feel a lot safer about the business, not having to worry about that stuff. Because really, that's not my area of genius. And I want to stay in my lane, in my area of genius. Yep. And if somebody is listening to you and it's not their area of genius, they're not in love with accounting. Like they don't like geek out on spreadsheets and think numbers are fun. And they like numbers maybe even more than people sometimes, right? Then they probably should not be doing the accounting stuff. And they probably are making a lot of dangerous mistakes. And here's where this gets really, where the irony kicks in, or where there's maybe a lack of integrity, is if a property management business owner is saying to a prospective client, like, there's all this legal liability, you shouldn't be self-managing your own property, you aren't familiar with landlord-tenant law, but then they turn around and they shouldn't be doing their own accounting, and there's all this liability, and they're not familiar with, reconciliation law, or, whatever you would call it. There's this lack of integrity. And when there's a lack of integrity, it shows through in some way, shape, or form. Eventually people see it in the business. And when they see that, it becomes painful. And so anytime I become aware, like, oh my gosh, I'm out of alignment with something, then I want to change it and fix that. And so I realized the other day that I was really frustrated with clients I was holding on to something that we needed to let go of, really. And I realized that the same thing happened to me. And it was like this wake up call. I was frustrated about this thing that had happened to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what we've been doing a little bit to clients. That's why and so that basically what it was is I paid a marketing firm to help me do some marketing stuff, and I wasn't available to communicate really well with them, and they were really busy too. And so we didn't really get any great results. They could have been a great firm, but I had to cut it off because it wasn't working. And I was like, man, I just wish I had an account rep that would help me through that process, that would have met with me on a regular basis, and I would have gotten it done. I wanted to do it, but I was distracted. I had so much stuff going on. And then it dawned on me, we have the same issue with clients. We have some clients that are getting amazing results because they just do whatever I tell them to do, and they follow our process. But then we have a bunch of clients that are just not doing it. And when I talked with them as to why, some of these clients that are not doing it, it was like, I'm really busy. I just need somebody to hold my hand, this sort of thing. And that was when it became clear, when I experienced the problem for myself in relation to another company. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what our clients really need. So we're adding account reps to our process.
Yep. And we saw that from very early on. So all of our clients have dedicated account reps. You call a phone number. You don't just submit a random email and hope someone answers. No, right. We legitimately try to answer within 10 minutes. Our response times, we see, look, at the end of the day, we all provide a service, right? And our service guarantee essentially is within 10 minutes, well, someone's going to answer, and they're going to answer with a solution, not just a random email to punt it down the road, right?
So I think anybody listening that has Appfolio by now is probably pretty interested in what you guys offer, right?
Sure.
Is there anything else that that you would say to them, or that they usually have questions or concerns about, like their most common questions that they're fearful about, like letting you into their books or letting you have access to this stuff, or that they're worried it's not going to be done the way they've been doing it, even if it's worse?
Sure. I would honestly start, because this gets really complicated, right? And it's multi-layered issues, but start with your bank recs, right? And don't just trust your bookkeeper, whoever who's doing it, saying that they're doing it, because I can't tell you how many people or how many PM companies have come to us and said, oh yeah, we blindly trusted our bookkeeper, and then we got audited and realized that they weren't actually doing it correctly, right? It's very easy. Go to your, I can literally, bank accounts. So accounting, bank accounts, pick one of the bank accounts, scroll down, right? You have your bank rec reports, and preview the most recent one. Now, if your most recent one isn't, as of today, like September 30th, which is the most recent month, you have a problem, okay? But when you preview the report, scroll all the way down and see if you're in balance. If you're in balance, that's the pivotal triple tie out, okay, or the three-way tie. If you're not, they weren't doing it right.
Got it.
Another super easy thing to check: accounting, diagnostics. If you have anything in those sections, that means money is not where it should be. And like, hopefully when you bring it up to your bookkeeper or whoever's doing your books, they don't see it as like oh, I know what it is. Let me, like, I'll get it done. We've heard that a gazillion times. They actually don't know, because if they did know, it wouldn't be there in the first place.
Right. But they realize there's a problem. Now they're like, oh my gosh, I got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are really great at figuring it out.
Yeah. I mean, we know all of the possible situations, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
So, and that's the advantage you have of working with, I don't know, hundreds of companies or lots of companies, is that you get to see inside lots of businesses in your area of genius or your respective area of expertise. And so that's the same for my business. We've worked with hundreds of property management business owners in our area of genius. Now, we never get into accounting stuff. That's not my jam. Sure. But I can understand or empathize with the idea that there's this advantage of being this fly on the wall that gets to see everything that's going on relative to what you're doing, and to create, and you have perspective and contrast, because you have more than one client that you're working with. In that, you've seen it all. You've seen what's working, you've seen what's not working, and you're able to make decisions that move people forward. And over time, some things start to just kind of develop, right? Some products start to develop, some ideas start to develop. You start noticing patterns in certain types of situations. And this is all this intellectual capital that you guys possess, that you bring to the table, that an accountant that isn't working with lots of property management business owners in the same software, they just wouldn't be able to see.
And to that point, do not hire a CPA who says they can figure it out.
Right.
You can't stress enough the importance of having product or the software expertise as well.
Yeah, I mean, how much between the product knowledge and the accounting knowledge and all the clients you've worked with, in total of each team member in aggregate, I mean, the hour you guys have collectively aggregated in comparison to somebody that's starting from ground zero saying, I'll figure it out, is a ridiculous comparison.
100%, exactly. A great comparison. One line item in your financial diagnostic report, if you use Appfolio, will take one of our experts on average 5 minutes to completely diagnose and resolve. 5 minutes, okay? We've heard countless stories, and you can try this yourselves, like test it yourself. Go try to figure out one of your own line items and see how long it takes you to figure it out. But I can tell you this, we've come across plenty of so-called consultants who are experts at this, and they work weeks to resolve a single issue. And that is not how long it should take. It should take
a couple of weeks later, like, hey, guess what? We figured it out.
Yeah.
Right. And you
5
guys
minutes.
have already done that legwork. You've already figured out logistically how all this stuff fits together and how it works and what the problems are. So you know how to get in and just, it's like laser surgery for you guys.
Yep. It's rinse and repeat. We've done it all. We've done it a gazillion times over. And it's not just myself, right? That's the other thing that I should stress. We have a team of 30, right?
Wow.
And so this is, and we're growing. Like literally this, like November 1, we're adding another 3. So, it's something where, again, this is not like one person who's backlogged and, having to juggle all the clients that they already have and new ones, right? We are constantly adding new experts and growing with you, quite frankly.
So is your team virtual, or do you guys all congregate at a physical location?
Nope, we are all fully remote. Our experts are all over the place. They obviously happen to coincide with where Appfolio's offices are. So we're primarily central and west coast.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we actually, the vast majority of our clients are actually on the East Coast, but it is what it is. We can do this from anywhere. We just do the exact same thing we're doing right now. We do screen shares. We go in, we fix the problems, right? No questions asked. It just gets taken care of.
Yeah, I love having a virtual team. One advantage is you can get the best talent from anywhere, right? 100%. So you're able to. So I would imagine, because you can do so many things so much quicker, and you have processes defined, and you have a team of rock stars that are really good at this, that really this isn't a more expensive service. If they were to work with a new accountant or some accountant that they saw locally that they said they could do it cheaper, really, you guys are collapsing a significant amount of time. And how do you guys, is this a hourly billable service that you guys provide? Is it like more of a monthly service?
Sure.
How does this work? And maybe you could touch on the cost savings of working with you versus somebody else.
Sure. And look, we're fully transparent with our pricing, right? So I'm happy to share. So we provide 3 main services: on-demand consulting, which is Uber style. That you have any questions, you call us, we answer it. You email us, we answer. We actually have a sweet deal for all of our clients. Anything that takes less than 5 minutes to respond, we don't even bill you for. Okay. Then we've got daily bank recs, which from a pricing perspective, it's just $1 a unit a month.
Okay.
So when other people say, oh, we charge $35 an hour, $125 an hour, or whatever hourly thing, ours is very scalable. You know exactly how much you're going to spend. You have 500 units, it's $500 a month. We take care of it, right? You've got 50 units, it's $50 a month. That's it.
Right. I mean, that's cheaper than a part-time employee.
Oh yeah, way cheaper. and any employee is never going to guarantee the work they do. If they mess up, guess who's still on the hook for all their problems, right?
You, because you're the one that gave them the process to do it, and they're going to blame you. So what's the third one?
The third one's our full charge bookkeeping. Okay, so that's where we do, and we say this essentially, we do everything in Appfolio with a $sign. Right, so this means like literally, all accounts receivable, all accounts payable, move in, move out accounting. If your owners have questions on their statements, right, like literally everything, including year-end 1099s. I mean, we do it all. So that starts at $20 a unit a month and gets as affordable as $10 a unit a month. And so it's really dependent on how many units you have, but essentially once you have over 500 units, you're at $10 a unit a month. And this is where I'd love to start talking about scale. Right, and the actual business of property management. Right, now a lot of people would probably be running some math in their heads and be like, oh, that sounds really expensive. Right, keep in mind, you never have to rework anything with us. We guarantee our work. If we were to ever fail our own audit, we'd reimburse you for the cost of those days. Right, so you literally have a guarantee. But beyond that, it's all about scale. If an owner or an investor, whoever, were to come to you tomorrow and say, hey, I've got 500 units. Can you take care of this? Can you handle this? The vast majority of PMs under 500 would probably try to say yes, but behind the scenes, they're freaking out because they have to now go hire people and go figure out how to scale this. With us, it's literally as simple as just sending us a request and saying, hey, I've got 500 units I need on board tomorrow. And our team would say, great. Get us the information. We'll take care of it. It's that simple. And the best thing is, exactly how much it's going to cost. 500 units is 5,000 a month. And they know, the PM should know, if you're charging 10% of monthly rent, you're probably charging on average about $100 per unit. Your operating margin with us alone is 90%. You know exactly how much it's going to cost. And that's called scalability.
Right. I love it. Okay. So this is all well and good for people that have Appfolio. And I know you have some stuff coming for Buildium and Propertyware, which are, the three giants in the industry.
Yep.
What about those people and everybody else right now? What stuff can APM help do for them?
Sure. So beyond that, most of our requests per se that come in are more so like, I'm looking to sell, or I'm looking to buy because we want to grow and then eventually switch to Appfolio, Propertyware, Buildium. I would say this falls under our on-demand consulting, but essentially we are also experts at property management or in property management. It doesn't matter what software you use, right? The knowledge that we've gained, it translates all across the board. And we've definitely done audits for essentially PMs who want to acquire companies, as well as audits for PMs who want to sell their company. And so a lot of times the conversation relies around your exits and what it looks like and how to get a better multiple and things like that. And so that's where we consult. And so if you're looking to buy or sell, you should always, just like in any other industry, there's the PwCs, the big four accounting firms out there, they do audits primarily for M&A. Or if you have public investors who want a third party to audit your books, right? So you can see us as, for anyone who doesn't use Appfolio, we're kind of like the PwC of the industry.
Okay, so APM Help is a great resource if somebody's looking to buy or sell a company, so that you can vet this company that's going to be purchased, do some have an audit done so you can get clear on what the financial health of the business really is, where it really is at, maybe what it's really worth.
Yeah, and that's, yes. So that's more so on the corporate book side. I can't tell you how many times we've seen P&Ls and balance sheets. They look absolutely fantastic. But then when we audit the trust accounts, they're missing $500,000, or they're missing, whatever, someone took the money, the security deposit, and went and bought a boat.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it seems like a real common trend that the people that embezzle the most from companies are the CFOs. I don't know. I just keep hearing these horror stories about that. Is that just, and this is anecdotal, I guess, but is that maybe because business owners don't know what's really going on with their money?
Well, so again, remember, this isn't their money. And so they're not really paying attention, right? This is trust money. This is other people's money.
Right.
And so a lot of times, they entrust someone to tell them that it's all straight, because honestly, they don't know what to look for. And so that's why we're building the tools like our tripletideout.com daily audit tool, that even if you don't know what's going on, right? If you let our tool go in and do what it needs to do, it can tell you high level, hey, some things look wrong, or hey, actually, you don't have that many issues. And the issues that you do have, here's a concise list that you can hand over to your CFO or bookkeeper and have them knock it out.
Now, the Triple Tied Out audit system or tool is only for Appfolio?
Right now, again, it's only for Appfolio.
Okay.
But before the end of this year, for sure, we will launch with Propertyware.
Got it.
Buildium, we're in the talks with, but right now, for sure, Propertyware will be coming up next.
Got it. Okay. What about Rent Manager? They have the open API. They've been the open guys.
Sure.
Are they on the roadmap?
So just like any other company, I guess, right, or good product person, it's all about demand. Yeah. And unfortunately, we just haven't had very many, just our birdies per se. Yeah, and no one's really talking about Rent Manager, unfortunately.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so this has been really helpful. So is there anything else that people should know about APM Help, that if they're using Appfolio, or if they haven't heard of you before, or those that should be keeping your eye on you for the future? What do you feel like they should know about APM?
We're trying to be the gold standard, right? We eat our own dog food. We're always hiring. Okay. Great people. I mean, look, no matter what, we're always going to be here, right? unlike some other random person who's just by themselves, we're not going away anytime soon. And it's something where whether or not it's today or it's 5 years down the road, right? You can always look us up. We're going to be available, and we've got our slew of services that, you know, we've created to help PMs.
Awesome. So, all right, how can they find you? How can they get a hold of your business? And maybe, and is there some sort of incentive for them to reach out and get in touch with you?
Sure. So well, obviously at www.apmhelp.com, APM meaning Apple, Paul, Mary. So the people on the podcast, if you don't see anything, Apple, Paul, Mary, APM, help, HELP.com. You can look into our audit tool, which is tripletideout.com. And quite frankly, test our response time. See if we respond within 10 minutes. If we don't, you can literally respond to whoever responds in not 10 minutes and say, hey, Taylor said your response time was 10 minutes. Do I get anything special because you didn't respond in 10 minutes? But honestly, their incentive should be the fact that you want to have clean books, you want to be transparent with your owners, you want to be above board, and you want to pass an audit, quite frankly, right?
So having all of these things and being able to put this on their brochures and on their website and being able to say this in confidence, it really is a selling point then for their business. It's something that creates additional trust, safety, and certainty. And I imagine that would then facilitate scalable growth and would allow them to grow faster with less stress, and it is a competitive advantage in the marketplace.
Yep. I can't tell you how many of our clients that use our daily audit tool, at least, and of course a slew of our services, but primarily the daily audit tool. We have a badge that goes on your website, and it tells anyone how clean you are and how many days clean you've been. And so it 100% becomes a selling point, right? There's a little bit of education, but a lot of times now, if you just tell your owners, hey, look, our books are clean, and you can confidently say that because our audit tool is telling you they are, yeah. I guarantee you're going to close the deal all day, every day, because now you've educated the owner that, oh, wait, there are PMs out there that their books aren't clean, right?
Right. I mean, it'd be pretty easy to say, hey, our books are clean, and you can go and ask them if they're triple tied out, or if their books are clean, are their trust accounts properly managed if they were audited, and they might start to see some sweat trickle down the side of those people's faces. So
exactly,
it's a great way to poison the well against the property managers that are not really running a tight ship. And as I say on our show and elsewhere, my vision and mission is that a rising tide raises all ships. It also sinks the ones with holes in it if the tide's low enough. And I think the tide's pretty low in the property management industry right now. And if we can raise the level, the bar, raise the quality level up, that C level raises, all the best property managers are going to raise up too. And the industry is going to expand and grow. And it sounds like you're right in line with our vision to help achieve that. And I appreciate that.
You got it. So thanks for having me.
Awesome to have you on the show, Taylor. So everybody check out APM Help. And Taylor, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing with everybody about your company.
No problem. Thanks for the time.
All right. Awesome. So you guys heard it. Go to APM Help. Check them out. I had a great opportunity to talk with Taylor at one of the NARPM events. Our booths were right next to each other. And so we were chatting a bit, and I was really curious. And so really cool. And I think this was a fantastic interview to get familiar with their company. So check them out and make sure you get your tickets to DoorGrow Live. Everybody get your tickets to DoorGrow Live. Our conference is coming up. It is the first conference that is focused just on entrepreneurism for the property management business owner and how to grow and scale companies. We are bringing in experts at growing and scaling businesses from outside the industry to help bring some new blood, new information, and new insight into this industry. And I've been, critical for helping several businesses grow and scale their companies in the industry. And I'm bringing in experts like Mike Michalowicz, who grows and is involved in scaling companies, who wrote the pumpkin plan, toilet paper entrepreneur surge. And I believe the property management industry is on the cusp of a surge. We're bringing in Alex Sharfin, who built a $100 million real estate company and then sold it and now scales businesses. He's helped us triple our revenue. We're going to be opening up a bit of our playbook and sharing how we run our companies internally. We've got 3 experts from Australia, Michael Sands, Darren Hunter, Dennis Youssef, coming to share how to grow and scale. And we've got John Paramore, who's an expert at growing and scaling businesses in the contractor and roofing industry. And he's also an expert at building sales teams. And so we're going to be sharing some new product offerings that we're going to be revealing at the conference that I think will help create this vision and this roadmap for changing this industry. Because I believe right now that the industry cannot handle all the growth if we were to start to shift to the level of market share and awareness that exists in Australia. There aren't enough property management companies to handle that amount of business. That would be doubling or more than doubling the industry size right now. And so my vision and mission is to create companies that can handle rapid, fast-paced growth through our services. And so I'm excited to share our roadmap and share some of the secrets as to how we're going to help property management business prepare for that surge. So come attend DoorGrow Live, get your tickets, and we will be talking with you soon on another episode of The DoorGrow Show. Bye, everybody.